is Jamie the Blind Limey. How to ride the edge between educating and alienating our loved ones. Hey, Jamie, how's it going?
Hello.
Hey, Jamie.
Happy Friday. I think that Drew looks a bit like David Hayter, the voice actor for Solid Snake. But that's just me.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, both very handsome men. But to my point, I have a member of my family, someone I hold extremely, extremely dear, someone who I trust, someone who I respect ultimately. And we agree on a great many things. But we have recently not had a falling out as such, but we have been discussing the existence of trans people, the validity of trans people, and the plight of the LGBTQA community. And they, because they're part of my mom's generation, they're sort of the generation above me, have not grown up with these concepts and have had trouble getting on board with them. They're very live and let live. They're very compassionate. Again, I wouldn't respect them if they weren't. But they have said things like, if you have a penis, you can't call yourself a woman, or
right.
And they, at least to my ears, echoed talking points I've heard coming out of the mouths of people like Stephen Crowder and Matt Walsh and the bad people, Ben Shapiro, these kinds of people, and it disheartened me so much that I got angry. I started losing my cool, and I was frustrated that I couldn't seem to convince them that no, but the science says that trans people are real. They're perfectly valid. It's not an aberration. It's not. It's just a variance. There's no single thing that makes us male or female, man or woman. Both gender and sex are separate, and they're both a spectrum. And the closest I got was actually to plug another one of our hosts and friends, Forrest Valkai. He did a fantastic video a few years ago, called Sex and Sensibility. That I
actually share that video. Just to quickly jump in, I share that video a lot when this topic comes up and people need just like a little bit more information. I go, look at this. So that's a great one.
Definitely.
And that's brought them around somewhat, but still the whole, I still don't get it. I still, like they're just digging the heel. It feels like they're digging the heels in. And like, considering that I'm supposed to be a professional at this now,
right.
Run out of argumentary tools. Any ideas, fellas? Any thoughts?
I like to go, okay, so you have an issue with this community. How has a member of this community affected you personally? I don't want to hear like stories of like what stories have you heard from other people? I want to know how a member of this community has affected you personally. And 9 times out of 10, maybe even 9.9 times out of 10, they have nothing. And then therefore that then makes them take a step back and go, what is my issue here? That's just, maybe that's something I would do. And this isn't an advice, Jamie, this isn't an advice place, but that's what I personally would do. What about you, Drew?
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I love it when people, love it, I suppose, used loosely, love in a sense. Okay. I love it when people bring up biology, right? Biological male, biological female is how it's oftentimes put, right? Biological woman and man, etc. Is okay. Well, let's talk biology. Like, you realize that there is biological basis in the idea that that gender is not binary, that there are that trans is real, right? Not just being cisgendered, but being transgendered is real. That there are at least 5 different stages of sexual development in utero, right? Culminating in your neurological sex. Right. So I'll ask people, I'll just let you realize this, right? This is a matter of biology. It is biologically observable. Chromosomal sex, gonadal sex, internal phenotypic sex, external phenotypic sex, then culminating in neurological sex. At any one of these points, there can be different variations, different paths that our development takes, and it all happens in utero. And so it is very possible, and you can point towards certain examples. Definitely it's not across the board with any one of these, but those who are intersex in very different examples, scenarios where this happens, with folks where they're developing where their development takes different routes. And so that's something where sometimes folks say, well, yeah, I realize that some folks have an intersexual development. And so those are things we can look at, right? I think it's as much as, I think some estimates are 1 in 50 of us. 1 in 50 of us have different types of intersexual development in terms of that. And so just breaking it down for folks, listen, there is biological pathway and biological development that this takes. It's not something where, because I think for a lot of folks, a lot of our family members, a lot of our neighbors, coworkers, etc., they really do think it's simply stating my preference, which there's a legitimacy to that as well. I identify such and such, but it's not merely how do I feel. It's also what are the biological evidences, observances, and that's a real legitimate thing. So that I think a lot of people gloss over and don't realize or give credit to, and that can be a nice starting point in helping break down some of the assumptions and barriers that people take in terms of assuming it's just some, teenagers these days, Gen Z teenagers just don't like to accept reality and they want to create it however they want it to be. No, these are verifiable identities, verifiable situations with how our bodies and our minds and our brains are built. So that's where I would start anyway. I don't know if that's helpful.
So on a couple of points there. On the one hand, it was mentioned talking about have you ever been had a person from that community do you any harm or having trouble with you? And we've already had that talk, and the answer is no, not personally.
Right.
And they're not, and therefore they don't have a personal beef about them, but they do believe stories they've heard about members of the LGBT community, especially trans people, demanding people be cancelled for using the wrong pronouns by mistake. And I'm of the opinion that no, any reasonable person would only demand people to be lambasted if they are doing it on purpose as an act of act of bigotry, an act of verbal violence.
Right.
And so my challenge to them was, give me some concrete examples. I want names, dates. I want to know, right?
Yeah.
The other point that was raised was the biological. This person is very, very interested in science, very sort of knowledgeable in some ways, but a lay person, much as myself. Unfortunately, they're also highly skeptical of authority figures. They don't trust the WHO. They don't trust the NHS. When I raised the NIH, they were like, I don't know who they are, but I'm sure they wouldn't trust them either because they're the US government. And I'm like, well, if you're going, it's like flat Earth. If you're going to just blanket dismiss all of the authority on it, what what the fuck am I supposed to say? What the fuck am I
Right.
supposed to tell you? What examples can I give you? You will not immediately dismiss out of hand. And Forrest was the best I had because this person knows that I've been drinking with that guy. I know, they like him a lot because he makes me happy as a friend, and whoever makes me happy makes this person happy. So I trust Forrest to a point, and that's the best I've managed to do. But Anthony Fauci, nah. WHO, nah. Psychiatry, nah. NHS, nah. And I'm like,
wow.
What do you do?
I mean, what do you do?
In a case like that, where they've discredited or they're looking skeptically at anyone in a position of authority, including those who are educated in these areas of conversation. So they're setting themselves up as the ultimate authority. They know better based on a gut hunch, based on their ability to read and survey random internet material. So I would look for, and what hits home is going to vary depending on who you're talking with. But I would try and suss out, how do we help them see that they might not be the definitive, I guess, let me rephrase that. Looking for how they might not see everything accurately. Mm-hmm. And so are there areas where they misread? So for some, it might be looking at, studies in psychology where it shows, that the, what is it? I mean, just in courtroom testimony, the least legitimate form of evidence is personal memory, because we don't remember things accurately. Of course, in order to show that, in order to do it what might appear to be the most logical way is, well, let's point towards authorities in psychology who have done studies on memory. Well, if they're anti-authority, well, then they're not gonna listen to that either. So you have to almost look for what is the anecdotal experiences of that particular person. Will they be like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. I might not be the single greatest source of authority and verification in everything in life. Oh wait, there might be others who maybe there is benefit towards actually studying something in an academic lens. Maybe there might be others who are a greater source of authority than I myself. But so just looking for, I hate to say it, but for people who distrust authority, it almost has to go to, you almost have to rely upon that subjective anecdotal storyline just to break down, to speak their language, if you will, and help convince them that they're not the fucking genius of all geniuses in everything that ever was.
Well, that's a good thing. I'm hopefully going to enable them to have interactions with people who have lived experience of that, and also, gentlemen, become pawns in my little scheme, because I could show them this, and anyone else who's having this particular last issue, that they refuse to believe that the word they can be used as a singular pronoun. And yet we have done nothing but refer to them in the first person singular using they. Nobody knows their gender or sex. I have not revealed it and will not. So this is an example that, yes, they is singular. Thank you, gentlemen. I'll let you go if you want.
Oh, you used us, Drew. What a sneaky bugger. Thanks, though, Jamie. I appreciate the call.
Sneaky bugger.
That was great.